everybody, Chad here. In this video, we're going to talk about something a little bit special, something a little bit tricky. We're going to talk about our mind, okay? How our mind likes habit, okay? Our mind likes repetition, okay? So when we talk about, abundance, law of attraction, law of assumption, setting goals, improving our life, personal development, that's why it's an interesting topic to bring up, because no matter what we're thinking, positive or negative, if our mind likes habits, okay, our mind likes daily habits, our mind likes daily repetition, okay, that's why it's so easy to fall into a positive programming, a positive pattern, and it's just as easy to fall into a negative one, okay? And that's why sometimes we get on a negative cycle, we start thinking negative, and it seems like we can't get off that cycle. We just keep on thinking about it day in and day out. Every time we wake up, we think negative because our mind is programmed to do that. Our mind likes repetition. Our mind likes habit. That's why it takes a little bit of work to kind of change that, to basically start thinking more positive. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I didn't really have a fancy little title for it. I have my morning coffee. I just got done. It's cold. I just got done with my morning walk outside. And this is kind of what kind of made me do this video, because I got my earphones here, my Beats and stuff like that. But kind of what made me want to talk about this is because, in our lives, the older we get, we're going to see patterns in our own life. We're going to see, ups and downs. We're going to see, ups where we feel like we're moving forwards. We're moving forward with a career. We're moving forward with power of thinking. We're moving forward, attracting what we want. Our life is getting better and better and better. Then we're going to see kind of patterns where almost like we're kind of going down a little bit. We see maybe something bad happens, and that kind of that bad thing happening, that kind of cycled out of that is more negative thinking. Then we get on a pattern of that, then that might go on for days, weeks, months, maybe a couple years, and one day you wake up and you think, oh my God, I'm in this negative cycle. I went right back to the where I used to be. And I've experienced that in my own life. I don't know about you. You can comment below, let me know. But the older I get, I start recognizing that pattern, that it's so easy to go backwards. It's so easy to start thinking negative, and you stay in that cycle. The reason why it's so easy, like I said in the beginning of the video, the reason why it's so easy is because our mind likes repetition. Our mind likes habit. So no matter positive or negative, when we start thinking negative about a situation and we keep on replaying it over and over and over in our mind, while our mind likes patterns, our mind likes repetition. So that's what it's going to think about every single day, all throughout the day, until we basically force to think about something else. And sometimes in the beginning, it feels like we're really forcing ourselves to be positive. And I experienced that recently. Since I'm in Ohio right now, so it's about close to the end of July, so it's summertime. So in Ohio, you have all the seasons. You have the spring, summer, fall, winter. It stays cold maybe 8 months out of the year, give and take. But, I didn't do that much walking in the winter, of course, because it's cold outside. So once it hit summertime, I started taking walks. Okay, I always do daily walks and nightly walks. So, but what I noticed was on my walks, I started thinking negative. I started, and my walks are probably like 45 minutes. So I walk way down to the bridge. If you see some of my shorts, sometimes, I'm making videos while I'm walking. So, I walk clear down to the bridge and walk back. So it's give and take about 45 minute walk. So it's a decent walk. But what I started noticing is that the more and more I started walking, my mind started going in a gutter. More and more and more. I started thinking, and now what I mean negative, okay, when we think about things we don't like, okay, maybe we don't like a certain situation, or we make up on our mind things that we don't like, and that's negative. That's what I mean negative. If we're not basically focused on what we want to do, what we like, what we enjoy, where we're going in life, that's all positive. See, negative, people think they're not negative, but they really are, because when you listen to their speech, maybe they're a friend, Maybe it's just, maybe in a restaurant sitting down and a table sitting beside you, you're not eavesdropping, but you can kind of hear the negative undertone. They're always talking about things they don't like, people they don't like, what's going on in the office they work they don't like, what's going on at work they don't like, what people at work they don't like, what people are doing they don't like, what they don't agree with. All that is negative chatter, negative self-talk. It's all negative. So if you fall in that group, you kind of have to start being aware of that. And that's basically what happened to me. I became aware. Now, sometimes being aware, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Because once you become aware of what you're doing, aware of negative chatter, negative self-talk, or negative talking in general, sometimes it can be not so much overwhelming, but sometimes it can be frustrating. Okay, because you start noticing all this stuff you're doing and you're trying to fix it, and it just seems like you're on this giant hamster wheel. Okay, you can't get off of it. Right when you wake up, your mind goes in the gutter. Okay, you're trying to figure out, why do I keep on doing this? Why does my mind keeps on going in the gutter? I don't want it to, because our mind likes habit. Your mind likes repetition. Okay, so you're in a habit of thinking the way you think. Okay. Again, it's hard to break a habit. It's not easy. Okay, this isn't personal development, me, Chad, telling you what you want to hear. It's not easy to break a habit. It's not easy to break a bad habit. And one of the hardest things we can do in this kind of space is master our mind. That's probably the most difficult thing that we can do as a human being, is to master our thoughts, master what we're thinking, what we think about all day long. That's probably one of the hardest things we can do. So anyway, kind of getting back to kind of what I started doing to kind of change things, what I've done in the past, what I'm starting to do now is, I noticed that behavior. Now, every time I take my walk in the morning, every time I take my walk in the evening, I'm pretty much thinking about things that I don't like, that I don't want to occur. Sometimes it's easy to get stress and anxiety while you walk. Your mind goes there and you start, you start thinking about negative chatter, negative self-talk. It can be an array of things that you're thinking about. But yesterday it kind of occurred to me, or a couple of days ago it did, and yesterday I started doing something about it. Then today I really started getting on a better routine with it. That I'm walking 45 minutes, probably an hour and a half a day, and my mind just goes in the gutter most of the time. Okay, I try to keep it as a very meditative walk. It turned out being a meditative walk, then it turned out being a negative chit chat to myself. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but this is what I started doing. Most of us have all this technology. Okay, I have all this technology around me. Okay, like I said, I got my Beats. Okay, I got Bluetooth earpieces. They're not here. They're downstairs. Sometimes when you buy your iPhone, it comes, I don't think they come with it anymore. I think they do. They come with it. They're your normal wired earpieces. You can put it on speaker, and listen to it on speaker, stuff like that. So, I have all of this, okay? But sometimes I get it as gifts and stuff like that. So I have all of it. And we have all this technology, but we don't use it. So what I started doing, and I did it today, this morning when I did my walk, is I have my Beats. And I use my own YouTube channel because I have a playlist. I probably have one of the biggest playlists of Neville Goddard. So I just, picked an audio that I like to listen to, and I listen to his audio when I walk to the bridge, listen to an audio when I walk back. So I'll listen to him for 45 minutes. So this is what I experienced. It didn't change, it's not going to change overnight. You have to understand that. When I walked, my mind's so much in a habit of going into negative chit chat that you're going to catch yourself. Your mind, even though you're listening to something, your mind's still going to go off in a negative. But the great thing is I'm listening to something positive. I'm listening to Neville Goddard. I'm listening to personal development. So when my mind goes off on negative chit chat, my mind goes right back to what I'm listening to, because I hear something that piques my interest. So it goes back to the positive, or it goes back to Neville Goddard might say, for example, Neville Goddard might say, imagine yourself living in the end. I hear that, and just for a brief second, it doesn't have to be for several minutes, just for a brief second, you think of yourself living in the end. You think of yourself, imagining yourself having what you want. already, having your goal, having what you want to manifest already. Maybe it's just for a brief second you do that. Okay, maybe you have a lot of brief seconds like that throughout the 45-minute walk. So that's way more powerful than being in a 45-minute walk the whole time in negative chit chat. So that's what I started doing. So I was almost choked. So let me take a sip of coffee. I take a sip of it weird because I don't like to get it all over my teeth because I drink black coffee. So if you're a coffee drinker, you probably know what I'm saying. I don't like to get it all over your teeth or it stains your teeth. So that's why I look probably weird when I take a sip. It's not hot, it's cold, but I'm like, take a little baby sip. But that's what I did. Now in the past, this is what I would do also, is when I was in Thailand was probably one of the most, because I went by myself, okay? I didn't go with anybody. I lived by myself there for 1 year, and I developed my own routines. And I wasn't tempted. Like lots of times when you live with somebody, sometimes you can be tempted to kind of fall into their routines, okay? You kind of give up your routine, what you want to do. I didn't struggle with that in Thailand because, it was my place. I stayed by myself, lived by myself. I developed my own routines. So when I stayed in a resort the whole time, so when I went up to breakfast, it came with a buffet breakfast, so I didn't have to cook or anything, which was nice. And in the morning, I would get up, take a shower. After shower, I would go upstairs and have the buffet breakfast. So I would put an earpiece in, my Bluetooth earpiece, and I would listen to Neville Goddard the whole time I was upstairs in breakfast. Now, sometimes I would take it out to talk to people, whatever, but I did that every single day, okay? And I got in a pattern of that. Then it started happening. It didn't happen your first day, second day, or third day, but eventually it starts happening where you get up more positive, you get up more cheery, you get up where your mind doesn't go so much into the negative self-talk, but you're programming yourself. You're starting a new habit. Okay, your mind likes repetition again. So you're giving it something else to think about. That's basically what you're giving it. Okay, so that's what I did in Thailand. Another thing what I would do when I lived in LA, when I lived with myself in LA, is if I was home by myself, maybe I was home by myself, when I was home by myself working, I would always have on the TV, but I would turn it on. Most of the time what I would do, I would turn it on YouTube, find a personal development channel that I want to listen to, and that would be running in the background, maybe while I'm working or something like that. So I'm not watching TV or watching a movie or a soap opera that, there's always some negative aspect to it going on that you're listening to in the background. I would always be listening to, for example, maybe like Neville Goddard. Maybe I'm not really paying attention to it, but it's just playing in the background if you're that type of person. Sometimes, sometimes we're in a mood, or sometimes people, they need total quiet when they work. Hey, and that's great. Sometimes I'm in that mood. And sometimes people they like just almost just sound going on. They're not super paying attention to it, but there's just sound going on in the background that helps them to stay motivated. But you have to pay attention to what type of sound's going on in the background. I'm like wiping through the camera there, because what happens is we think we're not paying attention to it because we're working, but our mind, our subconscious mind, even though we're awake, our subconscious mind is still going. Our subconscious mind still picks it up. So it's still listening to it no matter if you're aware of it or not. So you have to pay attention if you're doing that, what's playing in the background. So I would do that all the time. But I would listen to personal development. I would listen to Neville Goddard. I would listen to Earl Nightingale. I would listen to Wayne Dyer, stuff like that that's just playing in the background if I just wanted some background noise. Okay, I would do that all the time. That helps with negative self-talk. Your mind's still going to go in the gutter, but then you pick up something you're listening to and it switches it right away. So your mind goes right back to being a positive. It's the same way if you're being aware. Okay, if you start being aware, you might catch yourself more and more and more, like if you use like affirmations. That's why affirmations are so great to use, or you develop your own affirmations, because once you become aware of your negative self-talk, once you catch yourself doing it, lots of times you can try to turn it around with an affirmation. You repeat an affirmation to yourself. Your affirmation could be something simple. Like for my affirmation, if I'm getting, it's coming the few months I'm gonna be in Thailand. Sometimes that causes worry and anxiety and stuff like that. And my affirmation might be something simple as, thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. I'm gonna be in Thailand. Thank you, Father. I'm gonna be in Thailand for 1 year. I'm gonna work remote. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. I have $300,000 in my account. Thank you, Father. You know what I mean? It switches you. That's why affirmations are so powerful. It's not just waking up and doing a morning affirmation and you go off for your day the whole day, and your mind goes in negative chit chat again. Okay, that's basically kind of the reality of it. I mean, that's why you watch some of my videos. Sometimes I always say you have to scatter your stuff. Okay. That's what works for me. Okay, that's what works over time. What I figured out is scattering information, scattering different, different like little routines that you have. One time in my life, I used to have this enormous morning routine. Like my morning routine would be like an hour, hour and a half, or at least an hour. Okay, and it would, I would wake up, like read a chapter of a book, maybe like Think and Grow Rich, for example, or read a couple pages, of Wallace Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich. That sets the pattern a little bit. Then I want to go on I had this great big words of affirmation thing I would read. Then I would go into a meditation. Then after the meditation, I would go into another words of affirmation thing. Then maybe I would go work out. Okay, I had this huge, thing I did in the morning, and I got good results with it. But then after my morning routine, then you go off on your day. So your whole day is a bigger chunk than your little teeny tiny morning routine. Okay, and it worked better for me when I started scattering all that throughout the day. Okay, besides taking a big chunk in the morning, I start scattering it. Okay, so maybe if I get up in the morning, maybe I read a chapter out of Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, something like that, and I'll put the link here. Or I would get up, do that, and maybe a couple hours later, I'll do some words of affirmation. Affirmations I had memorized, I would do. Maybe a couple hours later, maybe I'll do a 5 or 10 minute meditation, or a couple minute meditation. Okay, it could be a 30-second meditation if you don't have time, just to sit back, relax, clear your mind. You know what I mean? Then maybe a couple hours later over that one, maybe it would be more words of affirmation. Something aligned with what I'm trying to attract, what I want, something like that, or something aligned with current situation. Okay, then develop like a bedtime routine. Like most of the time with a subconscious mind, I'm kind of giving a lot here. Sometimes with a subconscious mind, if you can develop a great morning routine and a bedtime routine, especially in your imagination, those are the most powerful times that you can do, because you're at a sleepy state. In the morning, you're either waking up, so you're not fully awake. Then in the evening, when you get ready for bed, you start getting in this sleepy state. So, those are two the most powerful times that you can do stuff with a routine. Okay, if you just did those two things, you got in the habit of that, you're going to see way more power. You're going to see way more power in your life, way more abundance in your life, way more attraction in your life, way more moving forward, more of what you want, developing this routine right here. Then you kind of scatter a few things that don't take up a lot of time throughout your day. Okay. So that's just one personal experience. That's me doing it. And I'm always switching things up to see what's best for me. So I mean, you kind of get into the thing, what's best for me might not be what's best for you, but at the same time, I agree with it and I don't agree with it, because what we're talking about, you're going to get more power out of scattering stuff rather than that high school philosophy that, I crammed the night before a test. You know what I mean? Like most of the time in the real world, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're dealing with law of attraction, law of abundance, law of assumption, it's not about cramming. Okay, it's not cramming the night before a test. It worked in school, that works in college. Okay, but most of the time it doesn't work in the real world. It doesn't work as an entrepreneur. It doesn't work when you're trying to build a company. Okay, it's about being consistent, but it's about being consistent over a period of time. It's about being consistent every single day. It's about being consistent throughout the day. Okay, it's about being consistent and persistent with it. It's not about cramming and trying to get all this done at one time. You don't have to think about it. Okay, that's how I used to be. Cram my whole morning routine, everything I'm going to do throughout the day, I cram it into one little section. And yes, I got some results with it, but I got better results, more powerful results when I stop cramming and I start scattering it throughout the day. You see what I'm saying? But other than that, my friends, I think, I'm going to wrap this up, but it's about 20 minutes. I just want to share those thoughts with you, but that's something that, I was going through. I caught myself on my morning walks and stuff like that, going in negative chit chat all the time. And that develops a pattern, Again, to kind of wrap this up, we have to be careful because our mind loves routine. Our mind loves patterns. Our mind loves repetition, okay? It thinks about the same thing over and over and over and over and over. So knowing that and knowing those behaviors of our mind makes you more aware. Okay, now we have to pay attention. Okay, what am I thinking about? Okay, that's why it always feels like, once you get in a negative routine, okay, negative chit chat over and over and over, that's why it feels like you're on a giant hamster wheel. You're just running on this giant hamster wheel and you can't get off of it, because your mind is just so focused on negative chit chat all the time. And and it's so frustrating sometimes. You feel like you can't break it. It's so frustrating when you wake up and your mind just automatically goes in a negative zone, okay? And then it can be frustrating when you start new routines because you're still gonna catch yourself that your mind's gonna go right in a negative zone because that's what you've been doing for a while. So even if you get up, you repeat words of affirmation, okay, you get up and maybe you listen to an audio, okay, like I'm doing. Maybe you get up and you read a chapter out of a book, okay? But if you stay persistent with it and you be consistent with it, day in and day out, every single day, it's slowly going to change for you. You're slowly going to wake up one day and you're going to start being more and more positive. Okay, and that's what your mind's going to gravitate to. Okay, that's why you always hear in this personal development space, you always hear, be careful in your environments. Be careful in the environments you allow yourself in. Be careful in your environments you put yourself in. Be careful the people you hang around, because all this plays a part. Okay, we like to think sometimes younger, we like to think that, well, I'm going to go into a negative environment and I'm going to change it. We like to think, well, I can hang out with these people and they don't affect me in a negative way. I'm going to help them. Okay, but the reality of it, how our subconscious mind works, if we keep ourselves in those situations are going to change us. We're not going to change that situation. Okay, that's the reality of it. That's not being negative. It's just the reality of psychology. Okay, is my environment, the environment I put myself into, the environment's going to change me for the good or the bad, for the positive or the negative. Okay, if I allow myself in that environment for a period of time. Okay, same way if I'm hanging out with a group of people that's always negative. Okay, now in the beginning I might be the positive guy or whatever, but eventually if I hang out with them more and more and more, they're going to rub off on me more than I rub off on them. Okay, now the only way it really works, I'm not saying you can't ever be in a negative environment, you can't ever hang out with friends that are negative, but you don't allow them to take a lot of your time. Okay, that's how it really works. You're going in the environment, but you're getting out of it. Okay, you're not just going into the environment and you're staying. Okay, for example, really quick, and I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to go is when I've been in Ohio here for the year, most of the time I've been working in factories. Never worked in a factory before in my life. Okay, but factory environments are very negative. Some of them are very harsh. They don't follow rules, state laws, whatever, because in these small towns, they might not have a lot of attorneys running around doing labor issues or labor lawsuits and stuff like that. So these companies take advantage of it. So when you go in, you allow yourself in that environment for a year, well, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to change me. I'm not going to change the environment. Okay, I'm going to slowly start thinking more negative. I'm going to slowly start thinking, well, can I still do this? Can I still achieve what I want? Can I still, it starts making you feel that it starts bringing down your quality of life. It starts making you feel like you can't do things. You start making you feel like you can't have a better job. It starts making you feel that. The reason why you have all these emotions or negative emotions wrapped around with working in a factory is because you're allowing yourself in that type of environment. So the environment is slowly changing you. You're not changing that environment. So if you want to get better in life, most of the time you have to change that environment. Okay, so I mean that's a whole nother thing that's going to help you if you can slowly start changing your environments and the people you hang out with. I mean, what would it be like if you had a friend that you always talked to that was always like abundant, doing anything, always talked about what they're doing, where they're going, what they're going to do, it's their speech, you know what I mean? They're only hanging around like-minded people like themselves. That's why they keep on getting better and better and better. I did a video, I'll try to find it, I'll post it here. I'll post, I did a video on celebrities because I used to live in Los Angeles for 20 years. I worked in the entertainment industry for 15 years. So that's one of the things I noticed about celebrities. Is when you just sit beside them, maybe you're talking to them, maybe you're not, maybe you're sitting there eating a meal and you're hearing them talk to other people, so you're not really interrupting them. And you start noticing something. And one of the things I noticed is they're kind of like level of speech. And what I mean by that, they're always talking about what they like. They're always talking about what they're doing. They're always talking about where they're going. Those are the few things, like in just in their speech. That's why they're attracting more and more and more. That's why they're attracting abundance more and more and more, because they're hanging around with other people like that all through the day. And then they start talking like that. You ask them, there's like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, this week, I'm gonna do this. They're always talking about what they're doing, what they want, where they're going. That's just a natural, how they're naturally speaking. And then sooner or later, they start achieving that. They start attracting that into their lives. Rather than you talk to somebody, okay, the reverse happens too. You talk to somebody, say, hey, how is it going, whatever, and they go into negative zone. It's going okay. This happened to me yesterday. We all talk to people like that. You might even be like that. I might even be like that, So we have to pay attention to our own self-talk. We have to pay attention to, be aware of when someone asks you how you're doing, haven't seen you for a while, what you've been up to, and how do you answer those questions? you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm giving you a lot to chew on and stuff like that. It's going on for like 30 minutes. We're talking another 7 minutes. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts below if you lasted this long. And I'll see you, and blessings to you, and I'll see you in the next video.